Good evening, this is Samuel Woodworth, and today I'll be describing where I've learned this week currently. This week I learned chapters 4 through 6, and I'll be starting with chapter 4. On chapter 4, I learned about the history of human communication studies. Communication studies are basically ways that humans have used information in order to rhetoric and different types of information pathways in order to gain more information on a certain subject. And looking back at the history of communication studies, it can also be traced all the way back to the classical period in Greece, from 500 BCE to 400 CE. At least 25,000 years, 2,500 years ago, Aphasia, Socrates, Aristotle, and Plato were all performers and important figures who spoke at the Lyceum in ancient Greece. Plenty of other speakers and talented individuals and thinkers were also teaching public speaking, persuasion, and rhetoric to all the people who moved throughout the Lyceum during those days. This is on page 2. On page 5, we get to read about how Plato created the word dialect. Dialect is a form of communication where rhetoric is used in the form of a dialogue. And this dialogue is a process of questions and answers that would lead to the virtue of truth and understanding in order to understand something more by finding questions in order to receive more information on a subject or a question. On this chapter, on page 8, we get to see ethos, logos, and pathos. These are 3 forms of communication for arguments, and public speaking are important because ethos relates to the moral character. Logos is the logical feels in order to gain the logical appeal and reasoning. Pathos is finding the emotion of the audience. That's it for chapter 4. The next one is chapter 5, communication theory. This describes that the communication theory is a way of understanding different events and then organizing those events and representing them in a way that accurately displays a correlation between history. This is on page 2. On page 3, we get to see how different things help us broaden our curiosity of human connection. Scholars who study this are books, journals, and conferences. Communication theory is used throughout a lot of these events. It's used in order to also gain and organize a history in your mind. That is on page 3. And on page 18, we get to see an order of how an argument is being made. The first starts with the claim, the grounds, the warrant, the backing, the qualifiers, and the rebuttal. These are important to arguments and for public speaking because it helps you support your argument and to gain people's attention and listening. That's it for chapter 5. And for the final chapter, I learned chapter 6 describes communication research. And what's interesting about communication research is that likely we have all used communication research without even realizing it. Communication research is an exercise in creativity and practice, but also an exercise in practice and failure, because communication research is important because it relies on one common goal in order to help improve our interactions with others. That is on page 3. This is CS number 2, and this is my video for CS2.